Domain something something family. Hello there everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, here with our final look at Cleric domains. Today we're going to be taking a look at one that is just really not all that great. It's actually kind of really bad, but we'll explore why in a moment, and then we're just going to do just a little bit of a recap and breakdown on domains overall. Just some advice to have in mind when you're going to go take a look at them and make the selections for your cleric. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. Now, just to always reiterate, as I often try to do, this guide is just a guide to the cleric class, their abilities, and today, of course, their domains. Whatever you do, the main takeaway that you should have is that this is just to help you understand the class a little bit better, be better informed as you make your choices, and you are free to disregard it at any time, because even if the domain that we're talking about today isn't the most mechanically effective, if it fits the theme for your character, if it just fits overall and is going to be the most fun for you and your friends, then go with that. That's the most important thing out of all of this. And this isn't even necessarily a guide to build the most optimized, most broken, god-awful class ever either. This is not going to be the most busted version of cleric that you could possibly throw out there. This is just going to be something that's pretty effective. It's going to be good at what it does overall, but there are going to be better builds out there. And a lot of this is also going to depend on your party. But now with all that out of the way, let's talk about family. It's not just a Fast and the Furious joke. This is actually a community subdomain that you can pick. So for family, the bonus spells that you get, first level, you get Bless. Second level, you have Calm Emotions. Third level, you get Create Food and Water. Fourth, you have Imbue with Spell Ability. Fifth level, you pick up Telepathic Bond, which is actually going to be great for communication between you and the rest of your party members. Sixth level, you'll get Hero's Feast. Seventh level, you get Refuge, which I still really like. Eighth level is Mass Cure Critical Wounds, and then ninth level you grab Miracle. Now, the biggest problem with this is that all of these spells but Telepathic Bond are already on the cleric spell list. So Refuge, Miracle, Hero's Feast, these are all still good spells to have, and Hero's Feast actually probably works pretty well here because this isn't necessarily the spell you're going to have ready to go for a fight. This is more something that you would do after a fight or before the fight, because the spell can't really, if it gets interrupted at any point, then the effect is wasted and the spell is lost. But between fights, getting those bonus hit points, removing conditions like Sickened and a couple other effects, and also getting bonuses to saves versus, I want to say Fear and Poison, if I'm not mistaken. That's great to have. That's going to be wonderful to have going into a fight, and also being able to help with recovering after one and give your party just a little bit more durability. So it works here because it's definitely more of a situational spell, not something you're going to be using regularly, unlike, say, Bless. But then everything else here is going to really vary. Calm Emotions can be useful, like if you were to use it, say, target on an enemy barbarian, because that's going to take the oomph out of their rage and suppress that effect. But overall, the fact that most of these spells are already on your spell list is an additional negative against it. Now, going on from there, we have your first level domain ability, which is Binding Ties. It's a standard action to use it and touch one target ally to remove one condition and then transfer it to yourself for a number of rounds equal to your cleric level. The target is then immune to the condition until the effect ends. So if you're removing the sickened condition, that target can't be sickened again. Now, Once the effect ends, it then reverts to the original target, so the ally that you've tried to help out, unless the condition would have already ended or was removed. Say you cured yourself of the second condition. And this is usable a number of times equal to 3 plus the wisdom modifier. Here's the problem with that. You are a full spellcasting class. While yes, you should be removing negative impacts to your party, transferring them onto yourself can be incredibly dangerous, especially if they're effects that are going to leave you confused and acting erratically, or are limiting your ability to take actions in a round. Limiting your actions is going to dramatically affect the rest of the party, because you're going to need those to use your spells or participate in the fight. So that can be very, very dangerous. And not only that, the fact that it's so limited, it could be rated a lot better if by transferring the condition to yourself, you were allowed to make a new save against it. This could combo interestingly if you're playing an elf cleric with the family subdomain. If you were to transfer, say, a sleep effect from a target ally to yourself, you're immune to sleep. So I would argue that in that case, you are automatically just getting it to go away and removing it from your ally. So that can be interesting in that situation, but that would be limited only to sleep or effects that are trying to put you directly to sleep. You get the idea. So overall, Binding Ties is really not all that good. In fact, the only thing that's really great about the family domain is Unity, which kicks in at level 8. When a spell or effect affects you and allies in 30 feet, allies can choose to use your saving throw in place of their own as an immediate action. This is usable one time a day, +1 for every 4 levels. Now this is going to be great for fortitude saves and for will saves. It's not going to work out so great for reflex saves, but your party's fighters famously have bad will saves. Your party's wizards or most other arcane spellcasters famously have terrible fortitude saves. So if you're a midline defender, say you're kind of participating in front, but you're also keeping your squishier, unarmored spellcasting allies safe at the rear as well, then you're probably in an ideal position to at least cover, if not all of your party, at least a fair number of them, and allow them to make use of your saving throws. The only thing is that this has to be decided before they start rolling their dice, but it is usable as an immediate action, and it kicks in at 8th level when arguably that's when this is going to start being most useful, and it's getting additional uses every 4 levels. So this can really come in at a clutch, very critical moment where your allies, as many of them as possible, need to be making successful saving throws against effects that are targeting their weaker saves. So this can be an incredible ability. Absolutely amazing. It's just a shame that the rest of the family domain doesn't work out so great. I mean, if your DM allows you to rework Binding Ties a little bit, or if you work with them to boost it or change it up, then you can bring that from being a terrible ability up to at least an okay one. And if it's at okay, this is going to start becoming much more useful. But now let's actually start talking about some of the things that are going to be fairly important when it comes to picking out your domains. First and foremost of which, this is something Captain Crank mentioned in the last episode, which is absolutely worth reiterating. You can choose 2 domains. Now, ideally, you look for options that combo well. For example, the Void domain and the Glory domain, which Glory was not covered in any of the episodes so far, but it's a pretty good one to pick and certainly is worth a look. These two, though, synergize with the planar binding spells that Void provides as a bonus, and Touch of Glory, which is the first level ability from the Glory domain, giving your cleric level as a bonus on charisma checks. So that means when you're doing your planar binding, which requires charisma checks, you're going to add a pretty significant bonus on top of it, despite the fact that we're not really focusing on our charisma score. So that combination can be incredible to have right there and give you really good odds of succeeding on the required checks for planar binding spells. However, don't be afraid to grab an effective domain and another domain that's just kind of okay. You can still find some surprising combos with a little thought. And even then, even if they don't combo or synergize the best, the extra spells that you get from your domains can mean having some situational spells that are ready to go and free up prepared slots for more broadly useful magic. For example, Hero's Feast. Although I really like that spell, I think it's an effective one, I'd say it is still a little bit more situational. Certainly one that you could end up using daily, but it's nice to have that either as a scroll or as a bonus spell that, well, since you can't really swap out that particular spell for that level or another spell of the equivalent level, you just have it there ready to go, and that just kind of frees you up to select other spells for your day. So that can be handy in and of itself right there. So again, don't be afraid to play around and pick out domains that maybe aren't that great or just kind of okay, and pair them up with domains that are really, really good. Because like I said, you can find some interesting effects or combinations that really can produce surprising results. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that your choices are going to depend a fair bit on party composition. Healing is usually a between fights activity or end of the day kind of a thing. So, does your party need more spellcasting? Is that the role that you should be leaning yourself more into? Are you going to need more of a tank? Or somebody that's a midline defender, keeping an eye on the aforementioned squishier characters, the other party spellcasters that aren't able to afford to get into heavy armor like you're able to? Or are you going to need an animal companion for effectively an extra character sheet? The only cure for undead campaigns is more sun domain. So it's really going to be very situational what you want to pick out, unless your DM and your party has just given you free reign to pick out whatever, in which case, select away to your heart's content. But it is still worth considering what the rest of your party's taking, just so that way you can have a little bit more of a broad coverage. A little bit of overlap's never gonna hurt though, because don't forget, you're still proficient with simple weapons, you're God's favored weapon, and you're wearing at least medium armor, and it's not too hard for you to pick up a feat to get into heavy armor if you want to mix things up in the front line once in a while, especially with the array of buffing spells that you have available to yourself. Now, lastly, the last thing to remember is that having fun is the most important thing. Like I said at the start of the video, be ready to disregard this advice as necessary for your game. Because the only way to play wrong is if neither you or your friends are having fun. But of course, what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Hit the like or dislike buttons and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And hell, if you've made it this far, you must have enjoyed something or thought this was at least okay, so why not go down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time. Good gaming to you all, and you all have yourselves a good night.